Call agents, this is Agent 107, and welcome back to Agent Werefic's Goddesses. So, yes, we are doing a series on this. I said something about that in an update video. And the point of this recording, that video has not made it to you guys, so hopefully this will make sense. So yes, I mentioned that this will be a series, unlike the last episode of it, where I was unsure, but this time we're doing it. So we're gonna go into it. So we're into Chapter 2. Gosh, dang it, Ramsel. Oh, man, gosh, darn it, Ramsel. What have you done? Because I need to make sure I have the right voice, because I like reading-ish. The kite paced around frantically. Oh, I forgot to mention this is Chapter 2. Well, I guess it's kind of obvious with the episode name. I'm sorry, Kyra. I can't exactly help that they were after me. He quickly pulled the letter out of his satchel and set it on her desk. Read this later, alright? When we're safe. Harry slammed her talons on the desk angrily. Ramsel! This is no time for letters. Help me warn the elders. She jumped out her window and glided toward the elder tree. Ramsel followed behind her, keeping close. Not too close enough to knock her flying out of pattern. Excuse me. She dropped into the window and landed on an elder's dining table. Tyra, are you home? No reply. Crap, Ramsel. Check the nursery. She may be there. I'll check the meeting hall. I don't know if that's a good voice or not. The male kite blinked and looked out the window at the nursery. What? Is Kite actually a bird? Is that what's going on here? The male kite blinked and looked out the window at the nursery. He nodded and hopped out, and within seconds was through a window there. Tyra! Are you here? A feeble reply was returned from the corner of the room. Is that the male I hear? Yes, Tyra. It's me, Ramsel. I need to inform you of something very important. Tyra calmly shook her wing at him. Ha! You seem out of breath. Sit down and let me go make you some tea. The elder sat up and waddled the room over. Madam, there is no time for tea. Oh, I need to say that one again. Madam, there's no time for tea. She was already out of hearing distance of him by this point, and there was no way he was fitting through that door without ripping off his flight feathers. By the time she returned, Ramsel had his breath back. He decided to just blurt it out, plain and simple. Chakuna Taka are going to attack. The little bird opened her eyes wide and dropped her teacup. Out through the window again. Terrier rocketed through the doors of the church and up to the rafters. Her talons clutched the bell rope tightly. She tugged down as hard as she could. The gongs rang all across the village, alerting all residents. And just soon enough, the first hawk had flown past the village borders. It ripped through the walls of a nearby home, the birds inside screeching and escaping through the doors and windows. More hawks came in, causing havoc wherever they went, smashing through windows and ripping down gardens. Ramsel landed on the ground outside the nursery and stared at the chaos. One hawk crashed through the nursery wall. The kite stared in horror. Okay, it has to be a bird. 'Cause that's what they seem to be. Quietly entering the building to save anyone inside. Upon stepping inside, Ramsel saw something he'd never forget. The hawk was holding a baby kite in its mouth. Oh, not the baby! Anything but the babies! Werewing, you know how I am in babies. Oh, come on. Oh. And ripping it limb from limb, Devouring each morsel, it dropped the limp remains of the infant on the ground. When it had finished, and raised its talons to wipe the blood from its face. Oh! Ramsel held his knight tightly to his claws. He could feel rage flowing through him as his feathers raised up. He tightened his grip until his talons were piercing his claws, drawing blood. He spread his wings out and screeched, darting into the room and stabbing his knife into the hawk's shoulder. The hawk hissed and wrapped its talons around Ramsel's tail feathers, ripping the kite off of its body. Knife and all, it steadied itself for Ramsel's next strike. Spreading its rings far apart, it reached for a bar of wood on the ground and picked it up. Ramsel blinked and shot up to the ceiling, screeching once again and bringing the blade down into the wings, which the hawk brought forth to guard its head. The hawk screamed and ripped its wings free, sending Ramsel flying. He collided with a wall, and a shelf fell on top of him. Crawled out from underneath. Hawk must have thought him dead after the collision, because it turned away. Ramsel took his chance to fly up and send the knife into the back of the hawk's neck. Hawk hissed and crowed, whirling around trying to get Ramsel off before ultimately falling on the ground, limp and bleeding from the stab. Ramsel didn't dare grab the knife again. He didn't dare look again. He took a step backwards and heard a crunch. He stepped onto the remains of the baby. His eyes welled up with tears, and he sat down in the corner of the room, sobbing to himself quietly. Oh, it hurts. Oh, we're back to Philemon. Philemon steadied his footing, ready to leap at a moment's notice. The king had turned his back to the rabbit's position. Now was his chance. He bounded out, dragging the head of his staff on the ground. The guards saw him first, then the crowd. Screams and cheers of excitement rang through the hollow as Philemon tore through. The guards raised their knives, but Philemon was too fast for them. With a swift kick and a swing, he's going all overgrowth on them. Were knocked off their feet, and the rabbit hopped far over them. He ran up the stand and cut the bindings of Perrin's arms and legs, letting him down from his chains. He lifted the mouse onto his shoulders and tried to make a dash for the cages. There the king stood, angered. Onyangi slid a long knife from his robe and held it out to Philemon. Guards also crowded by. There was no saving the rest, but maybe the crowd could take his path as well. He bounded over the group of pursuers, once slicing upwards and catching his blade on the rabbit's heel. He fell over the rest of them, dropping Perrin and tumbling down. He tried to regain his footing, but he could only limp. He lifted up the bleeding, skinless mouse once again, and stumbled away from the caverns to the outside, where the sun shone and the wind blew cold. Cool. Ooh, back to the cats. I like cats. I don't know if anyone knows this, but I love cats. I like dogs too. My first animal was a dog, but I've really grown fond of cats. They're very nice and fluffy, like the one that's next to me. Thanky hissed at her sister quietly. Morocco, get behind the tree. Thanky, what? I'm not done with my mouse yet. I don't remember how I did their voices, so I'm sorry. The she-cat turned her head. Morocco quickly and spat the command again. This time Morocco moved without hesitation. The legume slipped into her metal claws once again and backed away to guard her sister. Micro looked off, finally seeing the dog. Her eyes grew wide. How will we warn Mother? How will we warn Mother? Shook her head. It's not possible. It's not possible. It's not possible. We'll be spotted. The dog was approaching quickly, the hut only meters from where it stood. Morocco, When I say run, the she-cat eyed her sister carefully. You run like heck! A look of great disbelief dawned on Morocco's face. She stared at the house. The dog sniffed at the pebbled base of the building. Getting close to the window, blinked and her fur stood on end. She eventually gathered the courage to nod. The dog's ears perked up, which there was a clatter from within the house. The two sisters held their breath. The dog stuck its head into the window and wagged its tail back and forth. Then a yowl. The dog huffed back from the window with a new scratch on its nose. It dug up dirt with its paws and howled. Lowered her ears. Run! Who only stared. Run, dang it, run! I have to save Mother. You won't be safe. Tightened her metal claws and ran towards the hut. The dog was climbing in through the window. Marco ran away. She couldn't stop. She couldn't turn back. Sliced at the hunches of the dog. It was a big black Rottweiler, maybe 3 times her size. She would take it on to save her mother. It yelped and reeled back, kicking her with its hind legs. It faced her and laughed. Oh, look, more fresh meat. The pack will be pleased. It lunged after her, but she dodged out of the way and came back, jumping on its back and digging into its sides with her claws. She bit his neck, but he was able to easily shake her off. He was too big. She tumbled off to the side and blinked out for a moment. Blinked out? Blinked out? Is that a really good word for it? I guess so. Blacked out works too, but yeah, blinked out is okay. When she came to, she found a rock underneath her head, which hurt. She looked for the dog, but couldn't see it. Her ears were ringing, so she couldn't hear it. She stumbled into the house, and there she found it again, with her mother in its jaws, but down with metal teeth. The first sound he could hear was the crunching of bones. She stepped back, trying to keep out of the view of the dog. She turned and ran in the opposite direction, out of the house, away from the sight she had just witnessed. Her mother, "You're going all superhero on these poor people, on these poor animals. This is they all got superhero origins going on here." Is that intentional? Seems like it. Her mother was dead. I should have read that part and then went on that rant. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 2, everyone. That was actually really short. How long did that go? Well, other than my tangents, 14 minutes. I actually was getting really into the reading part, so I'm wondering if that's why it didn't take as long as the last one. The other one had a lot of setup to do, so I don't know. So I'm really enjoying this really well. So, and I'm actually getting really into doing the voices. If you guys are okay with me doing the voices, which so far I've been told I should be doing the voices for this, and this is actually the only Agent Werefic where I actually haven't really gone off many tangents, and I'm actually dramatically reading this book. So I'm glad. I'm actually really glad that's going on. I think was that the only two characters? I think we had like one other, or did we have more characters? No, it seems like we only had like the 3. Okay. So it seems like we only have 3 characters, it seems like. I could have sworn he had more. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble on, because that's pretty much all these are, is me rambling with me trying to read a story. So, thank you guys for listening, and yeah, you can check this out in the description, probably. I think it's live this time, if I remember right. So, there should be a link this time. I think this is going to be the only series where I will link to it, or it's probably going to be linked in the first episode, probably. Well, yeah, read it on your own, and something I kind of would be interested to hear about is if you guys read this along with my voice reading, which would be interesting. So, this is Agent N 107, signing off.